In part 1 of this AMA deep dive with CEO Kris, we talked about the growth targets for Crypto.com and also the need for CRO to become very aggressive in this market. But what specifically will make CRO great again? Well guys, I would say let's strap in and let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only Coin Baron, and in this video I want to talk about the 5 elements that are going to make CRO great again, at least according to CEO Kris Marszalek. So guys, let's hit the like button, strap in, and let's hear from Kris what is element number 1.
Again, I think number 1 on the list is ETFs, and there was this announcement that came out this morning from Truth Social, and I think everybody needs to understand that this is the first of many. Our ambition is to have every single ETF issuer carry CRO, and in some cases it's going to be part of a single issue ETFs. In some cases it's going to be a part of the basket. But this is a very critical flaw. Again, the market structure has changed. This is what will provide inflows into the ecosystem, and all the builders that will want to benefit from it tremendously. I also want to address one issue that I think is not really deeply understood in the community, is that whenever we seed an ETF, this does not create a natural seller. It's akin to a loan where the ETF issuer is not the holder of the coin and is not a natural seller. So the impact on the sell side is none. So this needs to be understood. And I think if you look at the action following the announcement, I don't think anybody saw any material selling in the market. So keep it in mind, ETFs are a huge net positive for the ecosystem. It's not easy to get it done, but we will get it done for all major issuers.
Kris starts off by talking about exchange-traded funds, or the so-called ETFs. And we can also find that back in the Golden Age proposal, where they are talking about a part of the mint being used for seeding ETF information with the goal to capture institutional adoption through the Cronos exchange-traded fund here. And I think an important part of the talk here from Kris is that they're going to seed the funds, but the seed is more like a loan. So what you can expect is that we might get more initial demand for the token, but because it's more like a loan, there will not be additional sell pressure. So you can see it a bit more like an OTC deal, like an over-the-counter, but typically you do not see the same kind of sell pressure on the market. So honestly, this can be very positive for the token. In the end though, an ETF is just another investment vehicle, so institutions will still need to find a reason to actually buy the CRO token. But I think an important part of that are the baskets that Kris did mention. And I also talked about this earlier in a Crowcast with Oscar Ramos, CryptoCrypt, and also Black Sea, so check it out in the top right here. But you have to remember that many people are buying index funds that are very similar to the baskets we've been talking about. And if you're passively investing into the S&P 500, for example, you probably know a few companies. You know Tesla, you know Apple, you know Microsoft. But there are still 497 other companies that you might have never even heard about. So just being available in those baskets as a token is very important, just to get a bit of traction as well. Anyways, Kris has 4 more reasons on his list to make CRO great again. So let's listen to number 2.
The second thing that I think is critical to make CRO great again is to make sure that we are being in consideration for strategic reserves or digital assets stockpiles of sovereign states. And again, the level of difficulty here is even higher than in the case of ETFs, but I think we are exceptionally well positioned to make this a reality if opportunity arises.
The second ambition of Kris is to bring CRO into digital reserves of nations. And honestly, this sounds pretty much borderline impossible. However, of course, we're talking about a man that has a seat at a very important table here with the Trump administration. But I have to remind you guys that also XRP, the 3rd largest crypto in the world and also a US-made crypto, couldn't get a place into the digital reserves. I foresee a Bitcoin-only reserve for quite a long time ahead of us, but maybe Kris again has some surprises up his sleeve. Let's continue though with number 3 on the list.
The third thing, which I think is extremely difficult to do, but it's also one of the most important things is to bring strong founder teams to Cronos. We've been looking for many months and quarters and years for exciting projects to list on the Crypto.com platform coming from the Crypto.com community. And the assessment is that there's not enough meat there. So the teams at Kronos, and I've seen that there's a new lead that has been appointed today. Mirko, he's a great guy. I'm sure you guys are going to love him. His number one job is to make sure that we bring extremely strong founder teams to the community, founder teams that will build breakthrough projects that on its own right will stand at multi-billion-dollar valuation, are able to raise funding from leading VCs and drive this ecosystem forward. And CRO will definitely benefit from this as the base pair. We've seen how ETH benefited from this in 2017. So this is an established playbook. We've seen how Solana benefited from it during this cycle, right? It's very important that the teams that are building on Cronos are absolutely world-class, and it will require significant incentives and significant investment. And I think the Cronos team is 100% committed to it.
In my humble opinion, this is the most important goal for Cronos to achieve. Because indeed, if you take a look at Ethereum, if you take a look at Solana, it is not an exchange, it is not an app, it is really the ecosystem that made the token drive in the end as well. So I'm really excited also about some changes for the Cronos team, because you might have heard about this already in the AMA here, but here we go. A new lead for Cronos Lab. So this is Mirko Zhao, and I've so far already seen a few things from him. He's really trying to communicate, he's really trying to build connections with other builders, and it is so important to actually get more users. Because honestly guys, where we are currently here regarding our chain, it is not really looking that great at all. So here we got DeFi Llama, and DeFi Llama tries to aggregate all different chains. And where is Cronos? Cronos here is at number 16. So we're lacking on many fronts. We're lacking on the amount of active users. We're lacking on TVL, and we're also lacking on volume. So we need to work. We need to work on this, and we also need to get more founders on board. And I'm already seeing some change. For example, this post here by Moonlander, where they do mention that Kris is looking for world-class founders. And there we got Moonlander to answer the call. Of course, Moonlander coming to Cronos is not magically going to fix everything for Cronos, but it shows at least that we need some change, because our current situation is simply not healthy. We need more founders and we need more great builders on Cronos, like for example the sponsor of this video, Puush.fun. Puush.fun is an exciting platform on the Cronos chain, and recently they added their own suite of DeFi tools like the coin locker. And with this coin locker, really anyone can create their own lock for any token on the Cronos chain. But why would you lock your own tokens? Well, maybe you would like to show your community that you are a true diamond hand. And with this tool, you can prove on chain that you're locking up your tokens for a set amount of days, like for example, half a year here. But you can also do different things with this, because the unlocker address is open for anyone. So you can also, for example, give tokens to anyone else with their own wallet address, but also say you can only unlock those tokens within 180 days. Again, it's a sandbox, but enough reasons to start locking up. Check out Puush.fun in the link down below. But let's continue with number 4 on the list to make CRO great again.
The fourth path and the fourth thing on the to-do list is bringing on institutional investors to Cronos. I think at this moment it's mostly retail who is holding it, and you've seen it in terms of the votes. I think the total percentage of votes voting no was about almost 5%, but if you look at the USD value of it, it was about $100 million. So we need to bring in institutional investors into the fold to make sure that the size of the ticket is completely different. And there's also the emerging opportunity of some companies following the MicroStrategy or now strategy playbook with accumulating digital assets. But to differentiate, they go beyond Bitcoin. Some of them, they're doing baskets. Some of them, they're doing 80-20 type of setup. I think there's a huge opportunity there for Cronos to be a part of these new accumulation channels.
His 4th kind of goes back to the first one, the ETFs, because with the ETFs, we can also enable institutions to really join the game of CRO. However, he does also talk about kind of what strategy is doing. So strategy is hoarding more and more and more Bitcoin. And when they're hoarding more Bitcoin, they're also offering more stock to buy even more Bitcoin. And he does mention there are potentially companies coming that are going to also dive deep into altcoins, and CRO needs to be there. In my opinion, it's not really clear how we're going to get on that short list of those companies and also what it has to do with the 70 billion mint. But okay, let's move over to point number 5 and hope we get some more clarity there.
And number 5 for me is just innovating at token utility level to further drive adoption. And that goes both for on-chain projects and also what we do off-chain on the centralized platform, leading to growing demand for services and the underlying tokens. So I believe very firmly that if we do all 5, we will be in top 5.
This 5th item really excites me because even though Cronos and Crypto.com are 2 separate entities, as we established in part 1, it does mean that Crypto.com wants to do more things on their central exchange to grow demand for the token. For example, we have already a way to grow demand with the staking for cards. We have the airdrop arena, we have the supercharger, but maybe they're working on more innovative ways to actually use CRO on their platform. And a bit of speculation here, I think it has to do also with Cortex AI for Q3 and Q4 on the roadmap of Crypto.com, because it aligns perfectly also with the new focus on AI for the Cronos chain. But we have to wait and see. I am very excited though. Having said that, Kris continues in his AMA also about the long journey ahead of us. But let's talk about that in part 3 of our AMA series here. So you guys would say let's hit the like button, also subscribe for more, and then next I would actually ask you guys to watch part 3 when it comes live.